One, two, one, two. So once again, we are back again with the Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life podcast. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So as we pay a little homage um, to a certain group, I am wearing the shirt. I have the shoe here. And yes, representing New York City and the Knicks, who continue to win and make me very proud for the very first time in a long time. But yes, I'm paying a little homage to that group, Tribe Called Quest. So they did have an album, which I do have here, called, and if I could just find it, it is in the stack here. It's actually right on top. Probably tough to see, but that is the album, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. So that is the idea and spawning of the name of this podcast, which is Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. So if we talk about Tribe Called Quest, and that is going to be the feature group today, Tribe Called Quest is a hip hop group that again started off in the late '80s. Actually, they go back as early as like '86 or something like that. Mainly it's three people, but there are four in the group. So you have Q-Tip, you have Fife Dog. Alicia E. Muhammad was the primary co-producer along with Q-Tip, and then rapper Jerobi White. So this group was kind of on the inception of fusing jazz and other sounds to hip hop. So their first album obviously definitely made an impact back in the late 90s. Here, I'll show you sorry about hitting the mic there, but here is the album, People's Instinctive Travels and Passive Rhythm. So that's it here. I actually have the anniversary album as well. But yeah, this album, definitely made trends. And I remember hearing it way back in the early 90s. I actually heard Low End 3 first, which is my favorite album, and went back to this album. So they at this time, already had made a debut or, was definitely influenced and connected with the Jungle Brothers and De La Soul. They ultimately became, with Moni Love and Queen Latifah, formed this group called the Native Tongues. Black Sheep and some others definitely connected with them as well. They recorded, I think the first time you heard Tribe was on a remix of a song called Buddy. So it was like a whole bunch of MCs, much like Scenario. Their first manager actually way back and then was the one and only Cool DJ Red Alert, and he helped work with them, get a record contract and get signed. And then their first demo included Left My Wall in El Segundo, which ended up on their first album, People's Instinctive Travels and Passive Rhythm. So it was definitely jazzy, it was funky. So I know we just kind of come off the big funk era with George Clinton and so many other influential artists like Stevie Wonder. Between Benita Applebaum and Can I Kick It, it was an album that went gold. It sounded so much different than anything else. When the Source actually rated it, it was a 5 mic album. Like, Source didn't give out 5 mics. I think I did a previous review on the Source, and originally only 15 albums were ever given 5 mics. So this was a 5 mic album. Totally incredible. Blew people away. Now, no call it global accolades other than going gold. They did not secure a Grammy or American Music Award or anything like that. But hey, they're making headways. Then they came out. I remember late in September. I was in high school and this tape was floating around school. And I was sitting with one of my good friends, Monty. He's like, "Hey, you heard about this new Tribe Called Quest album?" I said, "Yeah, I heard about them. Um, but didn't know they had a new album. I heard about the first one, but I never got it. It's like, you got to get this. So I got a chance to get it. First, it was a dub. I loved it so much, I went and bought my own store-bought copy to support the group. And like, this album, I have everywhere. I have it on a T-shirt. I have it up, like the vinyl framed in my house, and I've absolutely loved it. For the longest time, this was my favorite album. When we talk about my favorite albums, this is will never leave the top five. So, we talk about Scenario, the song that, definitely is infamous with me is Check the Rhyme. Nick, if I was Fife, you would been my Q-tip, or vice versa. So shout out to my big boy, Nick Healing. Definitely, we've even done this at work meetings on stage. So the song definitely resonates with me. We get to Scenario, which is the big posse cut, and in those eras, that's what you always did. You had a track with other MCs, and they did it with leaders of the new school. That was the blow up of Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes kind of came on the scene with Rah Rah like a Dungeon Dragon, and it was like something like you'd never heard, and that's spawned Busta Rhymes' career, not only just as part of Leaders of the New School, but ultimately as an MC, and he's still producing albums to this day. You know, his album last year was one of the best albums that came out, period. But then that's another story. But so Low End Theory, again, tons of accolades this album now got. If you can believe, this album actually got 5 mics as well. So Tribe has set this incredible precedent in comparison to anybody else. 5 mics 2 times in a row. Whether it was Fife on the mic, whether it was, the production that was done by Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Q-Tip, or it's Q-Tip on hooks, and obviously his own rhymes and how he collaborated. So totally unbelievable success. The album went platinum. They did a soundtrack, and it's a banger called Hot Sex. They did it on the Boomerang soundtrack back in like 93, or maybe it was 92, but unbelievable. Then we get to, I would want to say, fast forward after all the success, Tribe is blown up. Then we get to maybe the greatest release date in the history of hip hop. And I know there's been a lot of good ones, but I talk about two monumental albums, and two albums that are in most people's top 10. So let's look at my notes here. November 9th, 1993. I remember I was in university at the University of Windsor, Midnight Marauders. And I remember I had to go to like Devonshire Mall to go get this album. And I was a university student, so I only had money for one, but I knew I wanted the other one. So Midnight Marauders came out. This is shortly after, De La Soul's third album came out. So, we're bumping at school. Heavy rotation was Native Tongues in the two albums that were out, Bullhorn State of Mind, or Mind State. But I left an album there, and I'll get to it in a second. But Award Tour, didn't sound like either of the two albums, but it was like polished, it's smooth. We didn't have CDs yet, so you put it on tape and you ran that thing front to back. You had Oh My God, you had obviously Award Tour as the track, you had The Chase, you had Midnight. There were so many amazing songs that were on that suck. No, as I don't want to swear, but that was definitely one that caught a lot of people and made people think about a variety of different things. Again, Large Professor, an amazing verse on the album, and they truly threw some people for a loop when that album came out. It was mega impactful, and again, Tribe was literally top of the rap game. Now, I did mention there was another album. I didn't get it for 6 weeks later. And actually, first time I heard it was in my grandmother's living room in Jamaica. I pulled out of this bag, and my friend gave me this dub and said, "Hey, you couldn't afford it, but I hooked you up before you go on your trip. Check this out. This is crazy group. You got like 8, 9 cats, and they all rhyme." This was 36 Chambers and Wu Tang, and this is why November 9th, 1993 is the greatest release date in the history of hip hop when it comes to two iconic albums coming out at the same time. So again, we can sing the praises of Midnight Marauders till, literally till the cats come home. And the production of this album, Q-Tip experimented. Lyrics to Go is actually my favorite song on the album. The lyricism was a whole nother level. Fife improved dramatically from Low End Theory. It just sounded so different. The cover artwork is one of my favorite albums. And what's special about it, if I show you here, it shows a whole bunch of MCs respected by Tribe, from Casual to Black Moon to Diamond D to Kumo D with his sunglasses to Chuck D to Dougie Fresh. You had so many MCs on it. Definitely on the cover you had MC Search. So totally amazing album. This album you know went gold, or went gold and then platinum within a matter of 3 months. The critical reception of this album was like a breath of fresh air. I still remember the backlash, though, the disappointment that I had. Like, people were giving an A or an A plus. It's like, this album is out of this world, but the source didn't give it 5 mics. And that was like utterly devastating. And I thought utterly wrong with their ranking system. And, this album ranks in like the top 30 greatest hip hop albums of all time. It ranks is 10 in some eyes, one of the 10 essential albums. It was probably a top 3, if not a top 2 album, potentially for the decade, but definitely for the year of 93. But it didn't get the love that it should have gotten. It only got, in recent years, got reversed and given 5 mics. So Tribe is the only group that has 3 5 mic albums. There are some others, like I think when I did my review, Scarface, because there was a Ghetto Boys album along with 2 of his albums, including The Diary, that got 5 mics, but they hit it. And it was a special time and a special height of Tribe Called Quest. So pretty amazing what they had accomplished. Q-Tip then took a little hiatus, as we all know, produced the track One Love with Nas. That's part of the dream team of producers with Pete Rock, Primo, LES, and Large Professor to create Illmatic, the greatest album of all time. But they did a few things on the side. Glamour and Glitz was one of those albums that was on the show album. But then they came back. I think it was like 96, then Beats, Rhymes, and Life, which spawned the name of this podcast. It definitely sounded different. It wasn't a better album than any one of the threes, but it did debut number 1. It did in 2 years go platinum. It did go gold, by the end of the year. It was nominated for some Grammys. Best rap album, like, once again, was the track on it. If I flip to the album really quickly, if I look at the songs that are on it, the one that kind of catches my attention when I hear Motivators definitely, but my joint is the Jam. It sounds like on a Saturday, you put it in, you kind of get ready to go to the party, as they say on the album, not party, potty. And yeah, you just get in the vibe, you hanging with the crew, you doing all the things that are out there. But that was Beats, Arms, and Life. So not better than either one of the three, but it was dope. And then you know what? The group took a little hiatus. I know there was, and you see if you've seen the Beats, Rhymes, and Life documentary, there was some strife between some of the members, and they had creative differences. They wanted different things. Q-Tip was an absolute perfectionist and wanted things to go a certain way. So they started branching out. Q-Tip did some stuff with Jay Dilla and started creating his own solo career. Fife did the same. He created some of his own pieces. Um, you know, they kind of went back and forth and did a whole bunch of different things, but you could hear the strife. Like as an example, Fife had made some comments on a track called "Flawless," and in turn, um, Q-Tip, you know, talked about some things, what lies beneath on sound bombing, where he kind of said something in subliminally to Q-Tip or to Fife. So there was struggles and strife. We're dealing with this. On top of it is, if we fast forward, between the early to mid 2000s, and even before then, we're like in 90 or 2008 and 2009, they did go on tour. They did a bunch of different things. But here was the thing: with all of this, if you didn't know the history of Fife Dog, who, and rest in peace, he was sick. He struggled with being a diabetic, and it was well you know documented in the documentary and him on his lyrics that he was diabetic, and sometimes he felt good and other times he did not. Ultimately, um, he had to have insulin shots and a bunch of other things. Eventually, he did have a kidney transplant that his wife gave him, late in, I guess it was 2008, 2009. Like, this is like right around, and I saw him, like, the greatest show I've ever seen in my whole life was Rock the Bells 2 in Toronto. They did it like some aircraft carrier near the airport. But the artists that were there, so I'll name a couple as I kind of go through this. Tribe Called Quest was the headliner, followed by Nas, but Rakim was there. Um, we had some other amazing MCs. Red and Meth performed. We had Mos Def performed. We had De La Soul. Like, this thing started at 12 and went to like 11 o'clock. It was like Lollapalooza or Woodstock, but it was incredible. So it was amazing to see Tribe Called Quest finish. We had at that point we had I still remember to this day because my wife loves Mos Def. We had Mos Def chilling behind us, um, just vibing to Tribe and then banging out hits. But Fife was not well, and some more time passed. I know we got to the Love Movement. That album was okay. If I got it here, and if I look at the album here, lots of interesting things that was on there. Again, Find a Way was kind of the song. The Booty was definitely something that resonated with a lot of people. um the song uh Rock with y'all, with the one with Mos Def and Woodsworth. That was a real cool track. Bus's Lament, I always love. Pad and Pen is a very catchy one, and Give Me, the one with Nori. So the album was great, but again, not even as good as Beats, Rhymes, and Life, and definitely not as good as the first three. So here we are, solo stuff. They go on tour eventually. You know, they actually go on Jimmy Fallon, and this is when, and I think I got that one here too. This is now um, the anniversary of their first album. I think it's the 25th anniversary of in People's Instinctive Travels and Paths of Rhythm. So that's a special one. On this one, it had a couple bonus tracks, Footprints Remix, which is dope because we had CeeLo on it. Benita Applebaum remix with Pharrell, and then J. Cole remix of Can I Kick It? All dope stuff. Made it feel newer but different. And anyways, it was dope. But unfortunately, shortly after that, probably 6 months, Fife starts having complications again with his diabetes, and they were working on an album, though. They were working on a bunch of stuff. We Got It From Here. Thank You for Your Service is a secret album they were working on. But Fife got sick. He had complications with these kidneys and the diabetes, and then ultimately a shock to the hip hop world that Fife had passed. And hip hop would never be the same without him. This is a guy that was like 5'5", but he rapped like he was 6'5". So losing Fife was definitely a blow to me, as I love Tribe Called Quest is my favorite group of all groups, and no knock to Wu-Tang, they're probably number two, and then you start counting duos, but Tribe Called Quest was like my gateway group to hip hop, them and EPMD. And to lose, and we had EPMD break up and get back together on more than one occasion, but and a lot of beef went along with that. But to lose Fife and not to have a chance of them to reconcile was tough. But we didn't know that they were working on an album, and this album was halted. But the team decided to push forward, and with the help of Andre 3000 and others, Kweli, Consequence, Busta Rhymes, they do a great track on that album. Kendrick Lamar, of course, and others. The album got released on November 11th, 2016. And I still remember listening to this album. This album released, and I remember that it launched in the middle of the night. I woke up at 2 a.m. and it launched at midnight. And I listened to it from 2 a.m. until the next morning. And I was jamming in my daughter's room. My daughter at this time was barely a year, but I was vibing out to this album, and I loved it so much. I could not put it down, and I could not go to sleep. And that album was like the album of the year. And I know they went on tour shortly after. Again, unfortunately, this group has never really had great success when it comes to Grammys or other people. So they've won a Founders Award from Billboard. They've been nominated for a lot of different things. They didn't even get nominated for. We Got It From Here. Thank You for Your Service, and it was the best album. Like, it's probably in the last 6 years, it may be the best album we've heard. Period. But it didn't get the love that it deserved. So they've got legacy awards. They've got so many other things that have happened, but never won the Grammy. But the Grammy does not tell you how good a group is. So their legacy, obviously, they've leveraged so many things. Whether it was P Funk, whether it was James Brown, whether it was Stevie Wonder. whether it was anyone in that funk era, and they're truly an amazing group. Um, yeah, and even Dr. Dre will even talk about that the Chronic is inspired by how different Low End Theory sounds. So you can hear the impact that that album made, and you know, between Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders, it spawned a whole new style of music, and many like Outkast and Andre 3000 as he came out as a solo artist, D'Angelo, Talib Kweli and Mos Def. Go back and think of the Block Party, and that's still one of my favorite documentaries or movies just to watch because you see so many of our favorite artists just vibe out and chill. Um, but yeah, um, it's unfortunate that's the last album. There's hope still for some fans that there will be another album and one more before they call it a day. But they had to work so hard to get the final album out after Fife Dog had passed, and they still have done a tribute to some of the performances they've done over the years, like 2007. They did a performance at the Grammys, which was super impactful without Fife, and there was that big stage in behind, this big stage, and then the graphic of Fife in behind. So the group is incredible, and they are legendary, and they are in my top five, and I love them dearly. It's unfortunate that we may not have any new music from them ever again, but the legends that are Tribe Called Quest can never be forgotten. And let's give them their flowers while they're here. We talk about that lots with DMX and others passing, but let's give them their flowers. Much appreciated for listening, and talk to you all soon.